You really want that chest support. You don't want to have to be using your low back. You really just want to be focusing on the other muscles of the back and not having to worry about limiting factors. Well, that should tell you all you need to know. You need to find something that removes those variables, Anything where your chest is supported and you're sitting down or standing up in this case, but then you can really just focus on the range of motion, getting a deep squeeze, a deep stretch. That's what you're really after. So as long as you can check all those boxes, you have yourself a winner. This episode is going to be all about back-focused hypertrophy. So we're going to be picking what I deem to be some of the best training principles for back hypertrophy and picking out exercises according to that. And then going over some training variables that you may want to be implementing in order to get the most growth out of your back. We're going to be starting this workout with 3 sets of the machine vertical pull and then 3 sets of a chest supported T-bar row, followed by a finisher of 3 sets of a unilateral cable straight arm push down for some lat isolatory work. And along the way, I will be providing insights and ways that I can improve as a lifter, but also ways that you guys may be able to improve as well. Let's get into it. Immediately, what you will probably notice is my tempo. I am being sure to really stretch out at the top and then really contract and pause down here at the bottom with a very slow and controlled eccentric and a faster, more explosive concentric where you're actually lowering the weight down. And as far as, strength and power and athleticism is concerned, you'd probably want to be throwing it around and really emphasizing speed. But since this episode is all about hypertrophy, you really want to be increasing that time under tension deliberately. You don't want to be throwing the weight around too much because then you'd be sacrificing that tension. And tension is key. It is of the utmost importance when it comes to hypertrophy. So you kind of want a moderate rep zone that's really deliberate, slow and controlled, and really approaching that failure mark. So as you saw, I got all the way to failure and then some partials at the end to capitalize on that fact. And I really made sure that my tempo was adequate. As far as actual form is concerned on this lift, first of all, I'm choosing a machine variation because you are more stable. And I think the stability is really key when it comes to hypertrophy because you're just wanting to focus on a muscle group or 2 at a time. And if you're having to have all these confounding outside variables like balance and all that, then that can mess with how much you can really key into the individualized muscle groups you're trying to target. But in terms of form on this lift, since it is a machine exercise, it's a little bit easier. However, I am careful to apply certain principles For instance, I'm keeping kind of a more narrow grip. If I'm all the way out here, then that's reducing the range of motion on the lats. And that's something that you really want to consider, is implementing the most complete range of motion as you possibly can for most exercises in terms of hypertrophy. So if I were out here, that's the range of motion, versus I'm going as far inward as the machine is kind of allowing while still having that pronated grip. So I'm more like right here, which is a way larger range of motion. So that's A. And then B, I'm implementing straps. I don't know if you caught on by the end, but I was like just gripping it with my fingertips towards the end, but the straps were hanging on and it was allowing me to crank out more reps. If I didn't have the straps, then I would probably lose like 3 to 4 repetitions at the end. And we know that is the range that is the most important, are the ones close to failure. Now, as far as variations go, you can do anything that includes a vertical pull, but I really am trying to emphasize that stability component, and that's why I'm choosing machine. But a lat pull down would be a great substitution. A machine pull-up, assisted pull-up machine, that is, will be another great substitution. So whatever you want to do and whatever you have access to is going to be great. But I would really encourage you guys to look for something that kind of suits your specific biomechanics. I tried out a different lat pull down machine before I settled on this one, before I started the filming of this episode. And the issue with that one and why I didn't choose it is because at the very top range, I was cut off because of my height and how the machine is designed. So I wasn't actually getting that full stretch. So if that's going to be the case in the machine that you choose, I would highly encourage you guys to just do like a lat pull down or a pull up, whatever allows you to get that complete range of motion. Now we're at the main component row of today's hypertrophy-based back-focused day. And this is actually one of my favorite exercises that you can possibly do for the back, the chest-supported T-bar row. And the reason for that is because you are so locked into place with the pad that it removes the need for core support and using your low back and stuff like that. So you can just focus on your rhomboids, your low traps, your lats, and all of that jazz in there. So I think that it's very important if you are trying to really accentuate that hypertrophy focus of your back. Now, if you were to want to do like a strength movement or something, then you may opt for like a free weight where you don't have this pad version of a row, maybe like a bent over barbell row or something like that, because then you'd be engaging all the core muscles into that lift. But I think that this one's great because you can just focus in to the back. And as you saw, I'm really letting go all the way, all like the tension, just to get that deep stretch at the bottom. And then I'm exploding a bit at the top and kind of squeezing. And I think that's the name of the game when it comes to this lift. Now, in terms of sets and rep ranges and variables like that, I think that this exercise lends itself very well to kind of a low moderate rep range, just because it is so progressively overloadable. You can really be tapping on weight a lot of the time, since it is a true compound stabilized version of a back row. So I kind of like between like the 6 and 10 repetition range, but feel free to play around with it yourself. Of course, you can do any range, and as long as you're getting close to failure or to failure, you're going to be achieving a ton of hypertrophy. But I just feel like this exercise lends its best to kind of that low moderate repetition zone. And then in terms of sets, this is a heavy hitter. You don't want to be overdoing it in terms of sets, or else it may interfere with your recoverability a little bit. But I do like to have it be emphasized in my back days. So I'll probably do like around 3 or 4 sets of this exercise. So it will be kind of like the center focus, so to speak. Let's assume that you don't have access to this particular machine. What would you do then? Well, just try and take away the core principles that I have provided you. You really want that chest support. You don't want to have to be using your low back. You really just want to be focusing on the other muscles of the back and not having to worry about limiting factors. But that should tell you all you need to know. You need to find something that removes those variables, Anything where your chest is supported and you're sitting down or standing up in this case, but then you can really just focus on the range of motion, getting a deep squeeze, a deep stretch. That's what you're really after. So as long as you can check all those boxes, you have yourself a winner.
Don't be left in the cold or points. Proper maintenance and basic repairs are simple ways to increase efficiency and prolong the life of your HVAC systems. Call us when you need us. Your comfort could depend on it.
Next up, we come to the unilateral cable straight arm pull down. I know that's a mouthful, but I don't really know what else to call it. I think that this is a great finisher exercise for your back because it is a single joint movement. You're not involving your elbow joints at all. There's no bicep. There's no elbow flexion being incurred. It's all just shoulder extension by using your lats. So you're really just going to focus in to one lat at a time. And I like doing it unilaterally for that reason, since you can do one lat at a time. Sometimes I'll do it bilaterally with like a bar or something. I think that that's a great movement too. But sometimes it's nice to mix it up and add a little bit of variation. And this is a way that you can add a little bit of variation without overdoing it. I like to include this at the very end of workouts, either that or to split up some body parts if I'm feeling super fatigued. But it's really great at the end because it's not going to beat you up too much. You can do it when you're pretty exhausted and still get in some solid reps. And it's not going to make or break the effort that you've been through. You know what I mean? Whew. In terms of proper form for this exercise, I'm really emphasizing that full range of motion. You guys see me hinging at the hips and keeping my back relatively straight. That's not just by accident. I'm doing that because it's increasing the stretch upon the lats and providing constant tension from above. If you were to stand and do this, the tension would stop up here before you get that full humeral extension of the shoulder and really eliciting that full range of motion. So by bending over, you're creating constant tension from above while being able to elicit the most amount of tension in the lengthened position that you possibly can. On top of that, I'm exploding down and kind of, using the same tempo as I've been using for the other exercises as well. So, a strong concentric and then a slow and controlled, deliberate eccentric, kind of a pause in the shortened or contracted position, and then also a pause in the stretch position. And I really like to really emphasize that full range of motion on this lift as well. And since it is an isolation lift, you can get away with doing a lot of reps before you really burn out. And I do think that this exercise is one of those ones where it lends itself very, very well to the moderate high rep range. So you'll see I'm doing roughly around 12 repetitions. That's just kind of where I'm landing because I always go to failure no matter what, or at least close to it. But if I were to drop the weight a little bit, I would just ensure that I got more reps, and that would probably look around like 15 to 20 reps. And I think that anywhere between 10 and 20 is probably the ideal range for this exercise. Now, of course, it's not an exact science, guys, but I do have a hunch, and that's the hunch. An additional little bonus point tidbit for the form is that if you're using like a free motion machine and you can't get rid of these handlebars right here, then I actually kind of wrap my wrist around it and then grab the ball so they're not dangling off into space. And then this next tidbit is extremely important, and it's grabbing onto something while you're doing it, especially with this unilateral variation, because it's going to reinforce that sense of stability that I talk about so much, because I do think that is very, very important. You could even try it for yourself. You could try doing the exercise without that sense of stability. It's so much harder. I can barely even do one rep. So I think that's of the utmost importance. And then if you guys like don't have access to this machine for whatever reason, this cable machine, you could do it with like a regular cable machine, bilateral variation just with a bar or a rope attachment. Try out which one you like the best. And then additionally, there's also some machine variation. I've seen some machines where they do this motion of humeral extension for you. And you could also do a dumbbell pullover where your back is on a bench and you're horizontal. And then you're bringing it back and stretching, because that's also the same range of motion. And if anything, you guys should probably be rotating through them, finding out which one works best for your body and which one you like. But anyways, guys, this is going to do it for this hypertrophy focused, talking about principles and all that jazz version of a back day. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you took something new out of it. I hope it helped you, and have a good one.